Hello all. So today I was planning to install Business Central 20 on my system because the cumulative update 1 is released today. So while I was doing that, thought to record it because I normally get questions around installation, which to me seems pretty simple, but maybe this video will help you. If you know how to install Business Central, then maybe this video is not for you and you can watch other videos in the channel. But let's start. So let's start from where you get the product DVD. So normally what I do is every time there is a new version or even a new cumulative update is available from Microsoft, I do write a blog post around it. So you can always go to uh, my blog, which is pretty simple, sauravdhani.com. Here you will see the latest article. If you don't find exactly what you're looking for, you can always look for the different labels that are there. All the cumulative updates are historically placed into the hotfix label. So you can find all the legacy cumulative update download URLs and details what are there. But right now we are looking for cumulative update 1. You can navigate it. You'll find all the details about it, the application platform version, for which localized version it's available. If you are a developer, I would prefer that you use Docker. How you do that, there's a separate article which talks about how to do it completely. And there's also a video around it. And then it also talks about the platform hotfixes that get fixed in this release. In the middle of it, there is a detail of update and a download link. You can navigate to any of those documents and it'll take you to the Microsoft website where all the details will be available, or you can directly click on the download link, which will take you to the download page for Business Central specific version. Today we are talking about 20.1, which is 2022 release wave 1, cumulative update 1. Then you click on download and you choose the version based on the region where you are and based on the localization that you're using. So if you are in India, you will choose IN. If you are, let's say, in France, you will choose France. My customer base is North America, so I'll choose US. So you can choose the type product DVD, download it as it takes at times. Once it gets downloaded, you need to extract it, and then I've already extracted it and place it on my root D drive with a folder name BC20.1. Now I have said it empty number of times on other installation video and I'll repeat it again. Before installing, you need to make sure that the DVD is placed as closer to the root drive because during installation, the files gets copied from the installation media to your system. So if you place it inside somewhere like on a D drive, then in a folder, and then another folder, and then there is a huge file path, you end up with error messages during installation. So make sure that during installation, you keep it somewhere near on the root drive with a very small name so that it's easier for system to read files and then copy them to the right directory. So we'll talk about other system requirements as we start installation, but let's get through that and we'll understand what else is needed. So you'll always right click on the setup.exe and say run as administrator. You'll confirm the window and you'll get a welcome screen. You'll click next, you will accept the license, and then there are 3 options. Microsoft still prefers if you would like to try an online version, you can give it a try. Do you have already an hosted environment and you just need the app to connect to it? Then you can use this option. Otherwise, there is surely at the end, there's an option to completely install it using advanced installation options. So once you choose that, there is an install demo which will install all the components. And if you are very specific as what components you need, then you can choose an installation option. If you are installing on a production environment, then you surely choose an installation installation option, because you need to install multiple different components in different machines. So you should only install demo if you are doing it for your uh, kind of learning perspective, or you need all the components in one single machine. Otherwise, always choose an installation option. Once you do that, you get this window where there are different options. Are you trying to install the client? So you just do the client installation. Are you just trying to install the server? Or do you have a configuration file available that have defined what components you will need as a user? Or you are a developer and you would like to install certain components that a developer need. Out of any of those, every of those have this customize option. So you can click on customize, and then it gives you list of component that you can install. So the AL development environment, it installs the AL language extension for VS Code, which automatically gets installed. But if you have multiple versions and you are very specific about the VSIX file, then this option places that file in your installation directory. The server administration tool install the MMC, which helps you to kind of using a GUI change different parameters on service. So that's what the service administration tool brings to it. The server actually installs a service behind the scene, which then gets loaded into the administration tool. So the server is the option which install that architecture of the middle tier architecture of Business Central, so that you can connect it to. Are you into page testability? If you're not, you can just skip it. Uh, then the next is SQL Server database component, which will install the SQL Server if it is not present on your machine. A demo version of SQL Express will be installed, and then a demo database is part of it, which gets installed. And then the web server component is hosting the website on your ISS. So we talked about so many things in this, like something is happening on ISS, something is happening on SQL Server, something is happening on the service tier. These two components, that's kind of part of it. So we'll understand what are the prerequisites for each of these components on from the hardware perspective and the software perspective that you need. But once you have chosen those, you can just hit next. But before I do that, let me show you my IIS, which will show you which websites I have as of today, and then we'll see what happens after installation. If you look at it right now, I have a Business Central web client for Business Central 170, and I'll still need it to do some projects that I'm doing. So once the installation is over, we should see one more here called BC200, and there should be a service after the installation which will be called as BC200. So let's see. So we'll hit next. You can define where you want to install it. What is your server name, where you are installing your middle tier. What is the service name that you want to give? It's BC20. Is there a specific service account that you would like to use, which you have provisioned? If you don't know what the provisioning of the service account is, there's already a video about it. To watch it. Then comes down, are you using a certificate? And if yes, then you need to provide the thumbprint of that certificate here. And then there are specific ports. 7045 for managing the services. For client access, it's 7046. SOAP web services and OData web services. And then there is development service port. Following that, in the new versions, you'll see that there's something called as snapshot debugging, which allows you to debug on SaaS production also, to take a snapshot of the process. For that, it needs support, and then there should be, that's it. So right now, I'll leave most of it as it is, but if you already have a version installed, you need to make sure that these ports are not used in the other service. Otherwise, you'll have an installation error. So these ports should be unique to the each service that you have in your system, if you have multiple versions for that matter. I'll allow it to run through firewall if required, and then I will add the client service port to firewall. What kind of credentials you are using? I'll be using Windows, so that remains as it is. Do you have a SQL Server installed? And if you have a name instance of SQL Server, then you need to specify SQL Server instance name, and then this will be the database name that's get created. And that's it. Rest all remain same. This is about your ISS, what port you want, and things like that. You can either have 8080 or 443 to be HTTPS. But all these settings can be changed after installation if required. So once you have defined all these settings the way you want it, you just hit apply and starts installation of the first thing that it start installing is IIS prerequisite for web server, which is eventually is site that will be used as a client. So while this is happening, this is one of the common thing that people keep on asking about. Let's talk about what are the system requirement for Business Central 2022 release wave 1. And these are minimum requirement. You should have kind of talk to your partner, if you're a customer, for the sizing of server based on how many users you have, how many servers you have, and all that. So to run the web client, you need nothing. You just need a machine which supports any of these browsers, which is very simple. So it's straightforward. You can run the web client anywhere. If you are dealing with a mobile app, if you want to use mobile app, then you can download it from Google Play Store or Apple Play Store. And I'm pretty sure from the Microsoft Play Store also. The mobile app is available, yeah, in the Microsoft Store. It's something called as tablet app or desktop app, I guess. These are the operating system these are needed. It needs at least 1 GB of RAM, and these are the screen resolution which are minimum required. Then for the desktop app, you can visit the Microsoft App Store and you can download it from there, and these are the requirements. These are pretty straightforward. If you will be working on this by integrating and collaborating with Excel, Word, and Outlook, these are the supported version of it. Like it supports Office 2019 Excel and higher, in the same way 2019 Word and higher. For AL development, which is for developers, these are the following supported operating systems starting from Windows 10 and 11, and then the server builds, Windows Server. The software that you need is Visual Studio Code and the AL language extension, which is available in the VS Code extension management. This is the minimum memory that you need for developers. CPU 16 GB for development only, 16 GB for developing and locally deploying small extension, which is less than 1000 objects, and 32 to 64 GB for anything where you have more than 1000 objects in that extension. If you develop reports, then you need report builder of SQL Server 2019 or Visual Studio 2019 or 17. For creating or editing word layout, you need Microsoft Word, which is again supported from 2019 and higher. Now let's come here on server component, because that's where most of the people kind of get a little bit confused about why I cannot install it. So for the server component, which is where your service tier is installed, you need very specific versions which are supported with Windows 10 and 11, which is Pro, Enterprise, or Education, only 64-bit editions, and the same for Windows 10. So do check what operating system you have before you start installation of Business Center. Uh, the memory requirements, the minimum memory requirements are similar to that, very specific and small. Additionally, you will need a Windows.NET Framework 4.8. So if you are on Windows 10 and 11, if it is not installed, I'm pretty sure it's part of one of the prerequisite component in the product DVD and it'll get installed. If you are on the server, then you need to install .NET Framework using the feature management, server manager feature management. So that's more or less about the server. Now let's talk about the web server. Web server is where your ISS, where your website is kind of hosted so that you can use it. IIS. I always misspell this. Sorry. For that, again, the similar kind of operating system are supported as for the service tier. So you need to make sure that you have the right things. And then it needs a .NET Framework and IIS 10 and higher. The database, you will need a specific version of SQL Server. So let's quickly visit that. Okay, these are specifics based on what you would like to use and all. So do check out this document before you start installing Business Center. And if you see here, there are different versions that are available as Business Center. You can pick and choose which one you want, and the system requirement section will provide you details of what you need. So let me see if I have for SQL Server. Okay. So the database compatibility should be 150 or 140. You can't be having databases lower than that. It does support only SQL Server 2016 and higher. If it is not available, the Express version, as I said earlier, get installed automatically. Okay, let's see where our installation is. So our installation is actually got completed, and let's open our IIS. And if I refresh this now, which I should have a way, let me click F5. You'll see the BC200 here. And you can just right click and browse this, which will take you to your local published website on your IIS. Addition to that, let's quickly look at the administration of Business Center 20 cumulative update 1. And once you search for it, it will end up showing you this screen, which is the MMC, which is part of that installation, which gets installed when you install Business Center. In a typical scenario, I would prefer in a production environment that you have a service tier on one system and the website on IIS is published on a different server, so that the load of a server is not drastically increased because there are multiple users logging in and the same machine is used for client access. So it's better that they are on the separate machines if possible. So this is the MMC control that we were talking about, which lets you manage the service easily, because behind the scene, the service is just a configuration file that then get loaded into this manner using the MMC. Okay, now let's quickly go through and see why I was saying that if you don't have SQL Server installed and if you don't have the prerequisite installed, from where they kind of come into the picture during installation. So in the installation media, you'll always see a folder called prerequisite component, which will have all the component that if not available on your machine will get installed, like the .NET Core, the .NET Framework, SQL Server Express version if required, report builder for report development, and other utilities which are required if they are not available. Remember, the Express version of SQL is installed which have its own limit of total databases size max up to 10 GB. All the extensions which get installed on your demo database are also part of your product DVD, which is in something called as applications. All the extensions from Microsoft are available inside this folder with their source code if it is open. So you can utilize this if you're missing any app and reinstall it or uninstall it for that matter. Having said that, if you notice, there is a separate app which is not available with BC20 Cumulative Update 0 or the general availability release called Shopify. So the Shopify is available with Business Central 20 Cumulative Update 1. And I haven't explored it yet because I'm just installing while I'm recording this video, but I'm pretty sure, oh, there's an action here on the role center which talks about Shopify. It let you create shops, then there are customers from Shopify, products from Shopify, okay, even the variants on item. You can have Shopify orders, gift cards, okay, but transactions are there and payout, which is super cool. I'll have to kind of understand all this before I talk about it. But let's click on shop. So you get a Shopify URL that you need to key in. That's an option to item synchronization to Shopify and from Shopify. So it's a unidirectional, it seems, synchronization. Either you want to sync your Business Central item to Shopify, or you would like to synchronize from Shopify to Business Central. Okay. Auto create unknown items. Okay. Shopify can update items. So that means whatever happens on Shopify can again roll back or not. Can update Shopify product. So it's again based on the direction that you have chosen. These booleans will work. New item will take this item template mode and things like that. It also synchronizes the inventory if required. Customer also gets synchronized, and then the order processing happens based on these setup fields more or less. Once this is done, you can request access. Everything seems more or less. I'm not a huge dev who have worked on Shopify, but I'll surely give it a try and let you know how much I understand it. But if you are looking to play around with the Shopify connector or the Shopify feature in Business Center 2022 release wave 1, then to install Cumulative Update 1, you can find the download link on my blog. Just download the product, install as we discussed in this video, or create a Docker environment and start playing with Shopify. Maybe someday we all will get together in one of the BC Open discussion and share our learnings about what we learned about Shopify. So that's all for today. I'm signing off. If you are still here and watching this, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and do share this video. See you next day with the next finding or next learning on Business Central 2022 Release Wave 1.